Hello guys and girls, good afternoon. Hope everyone's doing alright. Just this going to be a quick video for a couple of my subscribers. This is one's for Niall. He's asked me about the driver's hours and working time as he's looking to get back into doing some more driving back in Ireland. Now he's done a lot of international work in Canada. He's driven across Canada, America and gone to the Mexico border. So he's a fellow trucker who's a very good subscriber, leaves some great feedback and it's much appreciated, and he's a true driver, let's just say. And then you get some other drivers or armchair drivers well, leave all kinds of nonsense which, as I said, you know, I'll take with a pinch of salt. So all my videos are done off the cuff. Now this is the only one where I've actually had to write down some bits and pieces. As you can see, I'm not driving. Now you're wondering why my bonnet's up. Now if you've ever been in a truck stop in Europe or in the UK on a hot summer's day, which is a rarity. Now as I mentioned before, if you sometimes you'll do your laundry and there's only one dry and you'll be waiting, could be waiting for hours and hours if it's a truck stop. There's no working dryer. So what you do is you lift your bonnet up, put some string underneath there and you use it as a clothesline. And also, as me and Daz were doing the other day, when it's hot like this, use this as a sunblind, as a veranda. And there's a bottom step which I'll show you after as well, so you can sit that. Your bottom step is your chair or your bench, and here is your sun trap slash veranda. So when in Spain, I did my shopping yesterday, came back from my little beach, walked back, I bought a load of provisions. Now sadly I forgot to tell you, my fridge conked out in a little 450 which is going to be replaced anyway. I spoke to the office, this will never ever be in my arsenal or repertoire of trucks to ever use again. Never to be used in Europe because it's not got the power, and it had a gearbox fault, as I predicted it would be, over the hills and down the hills and running away with me with no retarder. And the fridge just conked out, so I'm going to try to fiddle about with it after, before I start. I've got to start in about 2 hours to go up to La Coruña, which is in the northwestern tip of Spain, and then we'll be going up to Enfield for a delivery. So I'm going to have some gazpacho first, or gazpacho. All it is tomato with as you see, cucumbers, vegetables. Got to try and keep yourself healthy. It's got some salt, some pepper, and it's lovely. You're meant to have this really cold, so I'm going to have to run the air conditioning for now to try to cool it down a little bit. Been charging my phones and what have you. So let's start on it. This is going to be just a basic driver's hours, working time, breaks and ferry movements. I'm not going to go too in depth into it. You know, it's just going to give you guys the basics so you kind of understand how it works with the regulations. Now this is the UK and EU rules. Obviously in America, Australia, Canada, you know, well, Canada and I think Canada and America, I think similar kind of driving regs. But obviously overseas in different countries, I can't comment on this, but this will be for the UK and Europe. So start off with the driver's hours and working time. Now there's breaks. There are breaks for driving and working. Now with the driving side of things, you can drive for 4.5 hours driving and you need to take a 45-minute break minimum. Now this can be taken at once or split into 15 minutes and then 30 minutes. Now I'm going to show you what I mean. Now I'm going to have to use this little prop, a little magnetic doorstop. I use as magnets for my motorbike helmet to keep my microphone secure. I've made a little microphone magnetic strip inside the motorbike helmet so I can vlog when I'm riding. So pretend this is my little 450. This is a 4x2 with no trailer. So say for example here, start my day, so I'm driving. Let's just say after 2 hours I'm knackered, I need a break. So I'll stop, put myself on break for 15 minutes. So 15-minute break done. So now I can drive for another 2.5 hours. Driving, and 4.5 hours and stop. So that is my 4.5 hour drive. So now the second bit, I've got to take a 30-minute break. So once that's done, that will reset your tachograph clock. So you can do, that's one, you can either split it, or I start my day, I'm going to drive like we're doing Spain here, I'm going overseas, I'm going to drive 4 hours and 29, boom, I stop. 45 minutes break, perfect. That's done, and that'll clear it again, and then I've got another 4.5 hours to drive after. Now these are the correct ways of doing it. Now what you can't do is, if you're driving, boom, 2 hours, I'm exhausted, I take a 30-minute break, I drive again for another 4 hours and 29, boom, I stop here for 15 minutes. Now even though you've completed a 45 minutes worth of break, some reason it's incorrect. You've got to do it 15 minutes first and then 30 minutes on your second stint, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's the driving side. Now let's just say now I'm gonna go, I'm not doing any kind of driving, but I'm at work. Now you cannot work more than 6 hours without a break. So before your 6 hours is up, you must take at least a 15-minute break that must interrupt your work. So here for example, I start work at 6 AM in the morning, I must take a 15-minute break before noon, which will be the 6-hour period, if that makes sense, if I'm not driving. Now if I'm driving, if I start at 6 and I drive for 4.5, it'll take me to 10:30 AM, then I've got to take a 45-minute break. So you can see it's not really confusing, but it is at the same time. But obviously, just remember, if you're not driving, take a 15-minute before your 6 hours, and if you're going to start your day and then you are driving, before your 4.5 hour period is done, take a 45-minute break. It's not that hard. It becomes very apparent, it becomes easier the more you do it. Now if you work less than 6 hours, no break is needed, which is a lot of rubbish. You need have a break if you need a break. If you're tired, have a break. If anyone tells you otherwise, tell them to get stuff. Now if you work more than 6 but less than 9 hours, you need to take a 30 minutes break, and that's by law. If anybody in your workplace tells you no, you don't need a break, tell you what, okay, no problem, let me just ring the relevant authorities and we'll take it from there. And if you work more than 9 hours, then you need a 45-minute break. Now these relate to non-driving breaks, if that makes sense. So next, let's go on to the next one, which is the driving. Now with me doing European work, now this applies to me a lot. Now you can drive 9 hours per day, but it can be extended to 10 hours twice a week. Now a working week basically starts at midnight on a Monday to midnight the following Sunday. Now let's have a look. I'll show you on here, see if you can see. Now what I've done here, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the day of rest, day of the Sabbath. So I've put it rest on a Sunday. So Monday I drive 9 hours, Tuesday I drive 9 hours, Wednesday I extend it to 10, Thursday I drive 9, Friday I extend it to 10, Saturday I do 9, and Sunday, day of a Sabbath. And all these hours added together makes it 56 hours of driving. Now, you can only do in 1 week 56 hours of driving in that week there, week 1, and that's on a 6-day working week. But you cannot exceed 90 hours of driving in 2 consecutive weeks. So this is week 1, I've done 56, I've taken a 24-hour rest. Week 2, which will be my 2 consecutive weeks, so week 1, week 2, I've done 56 here. I can only do 34 hours driving this week, which makes up to the 90 hours. 56 and 34 is a 90, and here I take a 45-hour rest. And then week 3, I can do another 56. So you can see here again, 34 and 56 be 90. Okay, so now we'll go on to the rest periods in a 24-hour period, or we call these as a 24-hour card. But we don't have the cards anymore. We used to have the tachograph discs, or paper aeroplanes, it used to be called. It's a joke, if you're an old truck driver you'll know what I mean. So, right, we'll go about the rest periods in a 24-hour period. Now, so there's a day midnight until midnight, so 24 hours here. So essentially, so I start at midnight, I work all the way until 1300 here, which is 1 PM, and then I take from 1 PM until midnight. It's 11 hours rest. So I've worked 13 hours up to 1 o'clock. Then I've had from 1 o'clock till midnight 11 hours rest. Now that's classed as a normal rest, which is 11 hours. And let's say, for example, I start here at midnight and then I work until 3 PM, so 1500, and I have a 9-hour rest in my 24-hour period. So 15 hours plus 9 hours rest, that's 24. That's classed as a 15-hour day. It's classed as a reduced rest, and that's 9 hours. Now you can do 3 15-hour shifts in 1 week, so that's 3 reduced rests. Now be careful of this. Even if you work 13 hours and 1 minute, you've gone 1 minute over your 13 hours, that's still classed as a 15-hour day. So there's no exceptions of that. Even if you've done a minute over, say sorry, I've only done a minute, it's a 15-hour day. Now your regular weekly rest is 45 hours, and your reduced rest, your minimum you need to take, is 24. Okay, so I've explained the driver's hours and working time for now. This is the bogs, obviously this is the bog standard basic ones, so you know how these things work. I'm not going to go into more detail. Obviously, if you want to get some more information, you can utilize Google. I'm not obviously going to do a long, hour-long video. I'm not a HGV school. So the next one, for my other subscriber, he asked me about ferry movement, so I'm going to use this. I've got my P&O ferries. This is my ticket, which was last Friday. I was in lane 1, plug in for a fridge. So on a ferry mode, or a ferry movement, you need to take an 11-hour rest. Unlike where you can do reduced rest of 9 hours, on a ferry you take 11 hours. So I'm going to explain. So for example, I've driven to Dover. Now I've got my ticket and I've gone to lane number 1. So I've parked up in lane number 1. I put myself on brake. So now I'm on brake for 2 hours. and then I get the people, they whistle me, say, right, okay mate, we're going to go until you're going to start to embark now. I'll press the ferry movement / ferry mode on my tachograph, which I'll show you guys at some point later on, and it takes me 15 minutes to embark the ferry. When I'm on the ferry, I put myself then back on break. Now the ferry movement has basically, that's interrupted my 2 hours break here. Does that make sense? Now for argument's sake, the ferry crossing takes 8 hours. So now I'm on the crossing for 8 hours. I've got a bunk, I'm in my cabin, I'm sleeping. Now for it to constitute a break, you've got to have a bunk if you've got like a long crossing, for example, like this. So 8 hours, I'm sleeping in my cabin, then I'm back off again. I go back down to my truck. Now I go back again, so they've opened the doors of the ferry. We're about to disembark. I'll hit again, I'm still on ferry mode, so I'll press it again, I disembark. It's taken me 15 minutes to get off the boat. I've cleared security and I'm getting off the harbour now. So with the ferry movements, that allows you to interrupt your breaks by 1 hour. So I've done 15 minutes here embarking, 15 minutes here disembarking, so that's 30 minutes of the allocated 1 hour I can use. So now I have 30 minutes to find some parking. So let's say, for example, I don't know, I'm in the harbour of Dieppe. Let's just say they say to you, right, sorry driver, you can't park on the harbour, you can't park here, blah blah blah, some nonsense. So then you've got to leave the harbour. Let's say I've got to leave Calais, I've got to drive, so I've got 30 minutes. I drive 30 minutes, I've found a nice rest area within that time, and I put myself on break again. So as I said before, on ferry mode you need 11 hours rest. So I've done 2 hours on the ferry terminal plus my 8 hours on the ferry, that's 10 hours. When I've done my 30 minutes remaining of a ferry movement, I then take the additional hour, which will then reset my clock to complete the 11 hours rest, and then I can go again down the road wherever I'm going to Spain, to Portugal, to Italy, wherever I'm going, and then that's it. So I hope this explains the ferry movement. So it's quite an easy one, but one caveat I must say to you guys on this is a disclaimer. Now with a ferry movement, you've got to be able to make sure you've got enough time to get to the harbour, you've got enough time to do the crossing, and you've got enough time to park up on the other side. What I mean is, if you get into the ferry terminal and you've got, let's just say, 14.5 hours on your 15-hour day, you can't cross. You're better off taking your break somewhere before, start your card again, and make sure you've got like at least 13 hours or 15 hours to go across the water. There's no point of you trying to get to the harbour, get your ticket, you're in the lane, and you've got 30 minutes left on your 15. Because even if you say, right, okay driver, you can get onto the boat, to embark it, then you've gone over your 15 hours or you've gone over your 13 hours, you've got an infringement. And if you get onto that ferry, you come off the ferry and you touch down in France or wherever, and let's just say you have the Trafico in Spain, or if you have the French Vosa equivalent and they check your tachograph card, you're up the creek without a paddle. Okay, so thanks again guys for watching. Now as well with the ferry movement as well, what I need to tell you guys, say for example if you just started your day, now Dover to Calais it's only like an hour and 35 or whatever's an hour 40 crossing. Now say for example you've just started your day, you've got to Dover, you've waited an hour, you've crossed it, you've done your 1.5 hour crossing, then you've got plenty of time to get across. You don't have to take an 11-hour rest, because that one's such a tiny little crossing. Once you've come off on the other side, just go on about your day, and then say if you've got a 13-hour day left, or you've got a 15-hour day left, you know, go on up the road and then park up and take your regular rest. So it's just obviously with this one, if you've got a long crossing, like a, you know, 7 or 8 hour crossing, this is where this will come into play, where you need to take the 11-hour rest, if that makes sense, before we get any naysays. Oh, what are you going on about, you don't know what you're talking about. So this is just, you know, this is a simple one. So basically the ferry one, as you know, the ferry movement, it just literally interrupts your break. So alrighty, catch you guys later, ta-da.